is Ascot Racecourse, home to Royal Ascot, the most prestigious race meeting in the world.
Royal Ascot, the most glittering event in the whole hectic British racing calendar.
Over 5 days, a remarkable spectacle unfolds, unique in its combination of pageantry and sport.
Ascot now is one of the most wonderful racecourses you'll ever go to.
It really does embrace everyone. It's a British institution where you want everyone to come and enjoy it.
But at the heart of the pageantry is a remarkable theatrical display, the Royal Procession, where the royal family and their guests arrive in carriages before a cheering crowd.
The royal family made the traditional drive down the course and through the winner's enclosure.
Well, it is the great curtain raiser for each day, and I think visitors from around the world are always absolutely staggered to see this great sight.
Now, as we approach the 200th anniversary of the first royal procession, its resonance feels as strong as ever. This is an event which is virtually unchanged since it first started in 1825.
The procession and the royal family is what makes Royal Ascot. Nobody has a royal family that is invested in racing like ours is.
To watch the royal procession is to not only glimpse into the past, but to witness history unfolding before your very eyes. For many racegoers, it's not just the racing at Ascot that enthralls, it's also the moment the carriages appear on the horizon, the anticipation followed by the great cheers, and the sense that they're witnessing something timeless.
And there are the greys coming through the Golden Gates, which is...
And for those lucky enough to be invited to feature in the procession, it's a memory that lasts forever.
One of the Queen's current trainers, William Haggar's far side, and his wife, Maureen, in the red.
First time we did it, I think we were sort of in awe, totally in awe. But everything is immaculate from the minute you drive in. You can't really get a feel of it until you do it. It's such a privilege.
To be a part of it is, in a way, almost surreal, because it is such an extraordinary sight.
Every box, every stand, every blade of grass is full of people watching the procession.
Everyone in all the boxes, they've all got flags and they're all waving flags, and it's a fantastic sight, it really is.
And then, of course, you hit the furlong pole, and there's the national anthem, and it seems as if everything stands still where this wonderful British institution of something extraordinary that's happening. And then you go through under the tunnel into the parade ring.
An incredible moment is when you're in the carriage and you round the corner, as it were, and you see this whole absolute vast array of people.
That opportunity to get so close to the royal family, which in normal life you can't do.
We are so fortunate to have the royal family enjoy our sport. The racing people embrace their presence.
To truly understand the magic of the royal procession, we need to go back to where it all began, Windsor Castle. For nearly 1,000 years, this has stood as a striking symbol of monarchy and majesty. And in the 1800s, it became the backdrop for a new tradition, one that is still thriving today. Racing at Ascot was first established by Queen Anne in 1711, and by the 1750s, it had become tradition for the royal family to attend the course's summer meeting. Although more commonly remembered for his extravagant lifestyle, first as the Prince Regent and then as King, George IV played a pivotal role in the history of Royal Ascot. It was he who commissioned the Royal Stand, which in time would become the Royal Enclosure. And it was during his reign, in 1825, that the first royal procession took place. That first procession was masterminded and choreographed by a man called William Wellesley Pole, elder brother to the Duke of Wellington. The king was genuinely worried about the public hostility towards him, so Wellesley Pole ramped up the pomp of the procession to such a level as to create a sense of awe.
He quite rightly realised that a pageant was something that the public would embrace.
On the 31st of May, 1825, King George IV, accompanied by the Duke of Wellington, led 4 other coaches with members of the royal party from Windsor to Ascot. The crowds cheered and the royal family smiled and waved, and the procession became this perfect platform for an enduring exchange of affection between the monarchy and their subjects. And what is remarkable is just how little has changed in 200 years.
So a typical day for guests that have been invited to Royal Ascot to join the King and the Queen for the day is to arrive at Windsor Castle, and then everyone's escorted through to the state dining room, which is a magnificent room.
And I remember a great lunch I had sitting next to the Duke of Edinburgh, chatting away about everything except for racing.
Yes.
And Andrew sat next to the late Queen and probably talked everything except for racing.
Everything except racing, because I know nothing about it, but Madeleine knows absolutely everything about it. So between us, we managed to not talk about racing.
Yes, but it was a great privilege and a surprise.
And then after lunch, the equerries will tell the guests where they are going to meet up and get ready.
It's easy to get swept up by the spectacle of these historic carriages rolling across the turf, the poise, the pageantry, but behind every turn of a carriage wheel is an army of people, centuries of craftsmanship, and a level of preparation many of us never get to see.
The carriages are just sort of all being prepped, and it's very sophisticated.
It's a wonderfully bright, small, lovely carriage, very easy for people to see. The passengers can sit up quite high, so there's lots of visibility for everybody.
Toby Brown does a remarkable job actually getting everything in place and choosing which horses are going to work well and the right riders with the horses.
Well done. Look great. Thank you.
It was just immaculately organised and to the minute, because it has to be on time, because those carriages have to come through the gates at a certain time. And from lunch onwards, it's a military operation. You drive from the castle to meet the carriages in the park, and actually the drive down is, through the park is lovely.
Extraordinary sight of England at its best, driving in magnificent vehicles that all then arrive to where the carriages and the horses are all waiting.
And you get in the carriages and off you go, and the whole route is lined by people waving.
We're in the carriage for a good 20 minutes and going through the most beautiful countryside. Lovely groups of people with their picnics.
And you're sitting in a carriage which is quite surreal. They're typically 150 years old, each carriage. You can imagine Queen Victoria riding in exactly the same carriage.
The Royal Carriages pulled by the Windsor Greys. It's the Cleveland Bays that pull the other 3 carriages. And opposite Her Majesty is John Warren, her racing advisor.
The late Queen always used to know what the going was like. She rode in the carriages so often. I was facing her in the carriage one year, and I was looking out to try and understand what she was looking at. Of course, I nearly lost my top hat. She was so tuned in and remarkable.
From the upkeep of the carriages to the choreography behind every procession, nothing is left to chance. But of course, for all the work the grooms and the team that the Muse put in, no carriage moves without the horses to pull them. At the forefront of every royal procession are the majestic Windsor Greys. With their distinctive colour and calm, commanding presence, they have been synonymous with royal pageantry since the 19th century. And behind me is one of the stars of the show. This is Icon, the lead horse for the King's carriage.
There are the Greys. They've done a fantastic job.
It was Queen Victoria who first began to use the Windsor Greys to pull the royal carriages for state occasions and the royal procession. However, Victoria wasn't a great enthusiast of racing. She didn't attend any running of Royal Ascot for the final 40 years of her reign, following the death of her beloved husband, Prince Albert, in 1861. It was her son, the future King Edward VII, who would play an integral role not only in continuing the tradition of the royal procession, but also in taking the involvement of the royal family in racing to a new level. He defied his mother by having his own string of horses. He established a royal stud at Sandringham, which continues to this day, and from where he bred 2 Derby winners. And he created the famous royal silks of purple with gold braid and scarlet sleeves, now recognised worldwide and worn by horses owned by Queen Elizabeth II and by the current King and Queen.
Still to come, the deep-rooted bond between Queen Elizabeth II and Royal Ascot, a relationship that would span 70 years, and the perfect way to herald the start of a new reign.
If one figure came to define the modern royal procession, it was Queen Elizabeth II. Her bond with Ascot and the sport wasn't just ceremonial, it was deeply personal.
Everybody knew that that was her real passion, racing. It's that that also makes Ascot really very extraordinary.
Unbelievably knowledgeable for somebody who had as much on her plate as she had.
Upon her accession to the throne, she inherited the responsibility of overseeing the running of Ascot. It was a role that she treasured, and under her stewardship, the royal meeting went from strength to strength, with the royal procession at its heart. Black and white footage shows a young Elizabeth attending her very first Royal Ascot as Queen, the start of a special relationship that would span 70 years. And although her reign was a time of great change, the royal procession remained a constant, mirroring the original format established by King George IV. Also dating back to the Regency period and beyond is the public's fascination with what the royal family are wearing. For example, the 1950s saw the emergence of the iconic new look, as worn by the princesses Elizabeth and Margaret, marking a new era of royal style. Royal Ascot and the royal procession became a stage for evolving trends. And one development was the public placing bets, not just on which horse would win, but also on what colour hat or outfit the Queen was wearing that day, thereby making the first glimpse of her in the royal procession even more keenly anticipated.
It is what has been described as a private engagement in a public setting for the royal family. The combination of private and public does make it quite unique, and I think that's another reason why it is so powerful. There have been occasions in the past when state occasions have made it impossible to have a royal procession. In 2001, there was a state opening of Parliament, which meant that all the horses that are obviously critical to the royal procession were in London for the state opening, so there was no royal procession on Tuesday and Wednesday that year. In 2004 was the major redevelopment of Ascot Racecourse. It was completed just before the royal meeting in 2006. The view was that in 2005, a royal meeting should take place.
For the first time in nearly 300 years, Royal Ascot has moved up north from Berkshire to Yorkshire.
Royal Ascot at York happened with as much of the experience as possible, and that included a royal procession. And then more recently, in 2017, Her late Majesty gave the Queen's speech in Parliament.
The Queen commands to attend Her Majesty immediately in the House of Peers.
Yeah, get your skates on. First race is 2:30.
So, showing full commitment to the success of Ascot races, Her late Majesty took a helicopter, I think, from London and was able to reach Windsor in time to join a carriage procession which came through the Golden Gates bang on time at 2 o'clock.
The Queen's connection with the sport ran far deeper than her inherited role at Ascot. She was an owner and a breeder with an almost unparalleled understanding of horse racing.
The purpose of today's visit was to see some of the brood mares who've been covered by stallions in which the Queen has an interest.
She knew the breeding back to front. She must have read the Racing Post every day, cover to cover, because she knew exactly what was going on.
When the Queen was growing up, the Gold Cup was the race that everyone wanted to win. It was this test of endurance and stamina and ability, and it was really important for the Queen.
2013 marked a significant year as the Queen's filly, Estimate, trained by Sir Michael Stout and ridden by Ryan Moore, emerged as a genuine contender in her quest to win a Gold Cup.
We read in the newspapers a few days before that no reigning monarch had ever won the Gold Cup, and she made reference to it, and I knew this meant quite a lot. You know, it wasn't an expectation that she was a certain winner.
Estimate is trying to join him. Simon on the purple jacket down the centre now. And behind those trying to come through the Challenger's top trip into the closing stages. Estimate and Simon on top trip trying to get on time between those.
But when she actually passed the post, it brought the house down.
Racing the water line, it's a happy and glorious day at Royal Ascot. Estimate has won the Gold Cup for the Queen.
And the Queen was really, really excited. It was a day to remember.
We got to parade Estimate down past the crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, in front of the grandstand now, the winner of the Gold Cup, the Queen's Estimate.
I remember being able to look up and, you know, tilt my hat to her and sort of say thank you, and, you know, you could see how excited she was.
And when we went through the tunnel and came out into the paddock, the place erupted. I think there wasn't a soul on the racecourse that wasn't thrilled and delighted for the Queen. For her to actually achieve it, it was a real sense of satisfaction deep within the Queen's being.
Since the very first royal procession, when the Duke of Wellington joined King George IV in the carriages, the royals have been joined by many notable guests.
The Duke and Duchess of Bedford, Andrew Bedford.
Princess Grace and Prince Rainier are guests.
Dame Judi Dench, who's in the 4th carriage there, Ginny.
It's a great pleasure, joy and privilege to be invited into a royal procession.
It was a wonderful surprise. You never really expect to get that sort of invitation. We had a wonderful day.
To be invited, fundamentally people have to enjoy racing. I know the late Queen, and I'm sure the King and Her Majesty now, they very much hope that it's an enjoyable day for everyone that's been involved.
After 200 years, the royal procession remains more than just a tradition. It's a living symbol of national identity and the monarchy, a unique platform through which the Ascot crowd and the royal family engage with one another.
I had a South African owner who brought a friend of his over from South Africa to show him Royal Ascot. And I said, would you like to come and see the royal procession? I got them into a really good spot. The late Queen came by. What touched me was when they played the national anthem, he took his hat off and tears streaming down his face. And I thought, he gets it. It was quite moving, and he didn't really recover for the rest of the day, did he? He went back to the table and went, that was unbelievable.
Few moments capture the poignancy of this relationship more than Queen Elizabeth II's final appearance at Royal Ascot. The event at which she had been an abiding presence for 7 decades. In 2022, the crowd at Ascot witnessed a moment of transition. With Queen Elizabeth II absent, senior members of the royal family stepped up and took the reins, leading the procession. In 2023, a new chapter began. King Charles III made his first appearance as monarch, honouring a tradition which his mother held so dear. It was a powerful reminder that while the faces may change, the role of the royal procession endures.
2023 was a wonderful occasion.
Royal Ascot in 2023 followed closely on from the coronation, which was a hugely uplifting occasion.
We were in the carriage and the crowd went completely crazy.
all the royal trainers know that preparing one and getting one home at Ascot is the ultimate goal.
Having a runner in their colours with their friends all around them and this huge crowd will be something very special in itself.
We weren't necessarily expecting Desert Hero to win, and I know the King wasn't expecting anything.
And the King saying, absolutely no way, no chance at all.
All the way through the day was excuses why the horse was not going to win that race.
Now they're off. Away they go for this King George V handicap.
When you've got an interest in a race, you basically only watch your own horse.
Bertinelli in the purple jacket towards the rear with Desert Hero on his heels.
They'd gone really hard and they were tired.
And the pace is well and truly on as they make the climb back towards home.
A lot of horses off the bridle, and the ones that had been outpaced or sat out of the back of the field, they all started charging, and I think the first 4 home came from well off the pace, suggesting the pace had been too strong.
Perfuse from Tagaboa, Valiant King in behind.
The whole racecourse wanted the Monarch's horse to win. A furlong out, this was a real possibility.
And Desert Hero coming through in the royal colours.
They started to go mad. The royal box etiquette disappeared completely.
Yes, there was an eruption.
Desert Hero squeezing through between Valiant King and Bertinelli. It's going to be close. Desert Hero for the King!
To actually have a winner in the King's first year was quite remarkable. It was very emotional. But when the horse passed the post, the King welled up, tears in his eyes, and the Queen burst into tears.
To see how much it genuinely meant to them, they were quite overcome.
All they wanted to do was get to Desert Hero and sort of give him a big thank you for pulling off a remarkable feat.
So we haven't had that many winners at Royal Ascot, so they're hard to come by for anyone. But to do it at Royal Ascot with the homebred of the late Queens, I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Seeing this extraordinary bloodstock fascination that the late Queen had, the King and the Queen just had this emotion that I'm not so sure they'd ever had before.
To have the Queen's legacy stuck through and carried on, everybody appreciates the magnitude of what's just happened.
It validated the King's interest in the great sport that we have, and realised and understood why the late Queen actually did it. It was a remarkable day, and one I won't forget in a hurry. It was wonderful.
It meant a lot to us, and clearly meant a lot to them. It was a great moment.
So as we look ahead to 2025, the Royal Procession continues to elicit awe and admiration. What began in 1825 as a carefully choreographed spectacle has become a cherished tradition, highlighting that bond between royalty and the public. It is this golden thread that runs through every royal meeting, linking past monarchs with the present day, uniting generations of racegoers, and keeping 200 years of history alive.